What up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the 3 Dot Podcast, where the conversation does not stop. This is Bogzy, and that's all you're going to get today is Bogzy with...
maybe a little bit of this.
There you go. There goes Chaotic in the background. And what were you saying pre-show? You're not a dot, but you are a...
I'm a semicolon.
He's a semicolon to the 3 Dot, man.
That's what I'll contribute here today.
We've come to the point of the season, guys, where I got so sick and tired of Fresh and D-Buster. I booted him out. It's just a solo ship. No, I'm just kidding. D-Buster, this is something that we kind of emphasized in this comeback, which is, now this is kind of something that kind of pulled us back years ago when we first started, which was when we got busy with work. It kind of held us up from recording because we always wanted to be together, right? Because, quite frankly, the best episodes is when we're all together. That's the honest truth. But it also held us back. It also held us back from creating more content and just being consistent. So Fresh and D-Buster have the day off. They're both busy at work. I, on the other hand, am free, and so of course we check in with each other every week. And I was talking to Chaotic, and I was like, "Hey, you're free. I'm free. Let's do it. Let's knock it out." And he's the semicolon today. So you get one out of the 3 dots today. Hope everyone is doing fine. Hope everyone's doing great. Chaotic, would you? And this is the topic of the episode, guys. Would you ever move to the Philippines? And now I bring this up because I just came back from the Philippines recently.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think personally, it depends on what kind of job I have at at the moment.
Right, so it comes down to that.
I think that's usually what it comes down to. Like, if you're able to do remote work, then fuck yeah, I'll fucking find that opportunity to buy a home or something over there. And if I could sustain that job, then that'll be great. But you never know. It's kind of a risky
right
move,
But you had a good time there.
Yeah.
So I went there. By the time this episode comes out, obviously it'll be sometime down the road since I came back. But dating it from today's recording, I had just come back from the Philippines about a couple of weeks ago. I went out there in Manila to do a family reunion, a grand family reunion, something that we've been planning for almost 2 years now. It was always in the planning stages. As in a Filipino family, we get together at least one day every week. Usually it's the weekend, and I'm always in the background just hearing, the aunties and uncles just talking about this trip. It came by so fast. This trip came by so fast. I was out there for almost a month. I was there for about two and a half weeks. Spent a little time. For people who have been to the Philippines, I'm going to name a few cities and one other island away from Manila. But my main time there was at Manila. And I also went to another island called Boracay, which has a beautiful beach.
Wait, just to, I guess, clear the air, where's your family from? Manila?
My family's from Manila, yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, around Manila. But I had found out how big my family really is. They're huge, man. The dope part about, heading over there was I got to see my family side from my grandmother's side, and then I got to see my family side from my grandfather's side. The main reunion was from my grandfather's side, but it was so cool to see my, in our native tongue, in Tagalog, my Lola, my grandmother. We got to see her side of the family. It was so dope hanging out with them.
Are both sides of the family from the same city too?
They're different cities.
Yeah.
They're all from different cities, which is crazy because if you guys ever taken a trip to Manila, for those who have experience going there and for those who have not, Manila is and you were there in 2018. Yeah, that was your last trip out there, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, but Manila, I feel like by the years is getting so modernized. Like Western modernization has moved in like full effect. And what I mean by that is just like, dude, there was a freaking Shake Shack.
Yeah.
There was a Shake Shack in Manila. They have so many stores that you can see in the States. Oh, by the way, the stores in the Philippines, the malls are stadiums. Like, no joke. I went back home, back in the Bay, and when I went to our local mall at Ceremony, it was depressing. I was just like, damn, this isn't a mall. Because you go in the Philippines, the malls are like 5 levels. And I can't tell you how wide it is, but it covers the whole area. It's pretty much like a portion of a theme park in Disneyland, but it's all malls. It's amazing. Their mall game is nuts. You ever go to a mall in the Philippines, you'll never come back to regular malls back here in the States. But They're so modern there. They have all the restaurants out there. They have their, of course, they have their own restaurants as well. People are so nice out there, man. I brought up this before we had recorded this. I was talking to James, and I gave him an opportunity. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do a solo show today, but what should I talk about today? And then he goes, you should talk about the Philippine trip. Like, talk about why, if would you live there? And I was there for 2.5 weeks, and I could probably see myself living there, man. I mean, not because of the experiences of, like, seeing the nice malls and seeing the nice areas, but even going through the provinces, like people that aren't from the city in the countryside. The air is just so different out there, man. And then the people out there are, like, so nice. It's so nice. It's a great feeling to see family that I haven't seen in forever, and family that I never knew that I had as well. It's such a mind-boggling experience to, like, if you saw some of the stories on my Instagram, for people that personally know me, there was a lot of kids that I met out there, a lot of kids that were my cousins, my younger cousins, and I never met them ever. But for the 5 plus hours that I spent with them that night, having dinner and drinking with them, by the way, Pinoys, man, they can really drink out there, man. But for the 5 plus hours that I was hanging out with my cousins, they really made it felt like they've known me for my whole life. It's mind boggling. It's crazy how, like, they were able to do that. It's not into comparison to, like, cousins that I have here in the States. Like, no, I love all my cousins, whether it's in the States and the Philippines. But then they made me feel like they've known me for such a long time, and it was a great experience being out there. But that kind of just, like, opens my mind to why I would live there, knowing that I have so much family out there, an extended family that I never got to meet, and being and I got to see, like, the city life where my mom used to roam around when she was a kid. We did the tourist stuff. We went to the countryside around Manila, outside Manila, and my mom would tell me, like, this is where I used to take a bus as a kid to go to the swimming pool, or this is where we used to hang out to get snacks. And that specific area to get snacks was like 2 hours away from home. So the things that they had to do to just kick it out there, which is, back then was a simple life, and even, like, today is a simple life for them as well. I think I kind of, jump on the same boat with you. Is, of course, it comes to, like, yeah, if you can find a job to work out there, yeah, I think I would. And also, just, like, the people in general, like outside family, strangers, like Pinoys that I met just on the streets or on the mall, or just doing your own thing, walking along the streets, like, they're just so nice. They're nice people. I feel like, there's this kind of stereotype, back home in the States, especially when it's like, whether you're a male or female going to the Philippines from the States, and then people like to make this ongoing joke, like, oh, if you're, for me, like, oh, you're gonna meet a female out there, they're gonna want to come home with you. You can, make them a citizen. I didn't get that. I didn't get that at all out there. By the way, shout out to the Pinays out there. They're beautiful. But I didn't get that feeling to anyone that I had met out there. I didn't get no, like one sentence of them wanting to come back to the States. In fact, whether it was talking to my cousins or, like, anyone in my family, to talking to a stranger, not one of them really asked about, or, like, really, made any comments about wanting to come to the States. Like, they loved where they were at. They loved staying, in the Philippines. And that kind of just, that kind of talks about the conversation that people talk about here back home. Is, they always talk about, like, oh, you should be, thankful for living out here in the States. And that's the light bulb that chimed in my head when I was out there, and the PI was realizing how good you got it back home. Because when you go out there, and especially when you're on the countryside, and you see the folks living out there, and how they're living life, and how they're making money, and what they need to do to get by, it really truly makes you appreciate life so much better. I remember going to, a bar, and I ended up talking to one of the bartenders there, and they told us how much they make. And by the way, the conversion out there in the Philippines for every $1 American, it's damn near 60 pesos. That already alone is a lot within the conversion. That takes them a long way. So if you think about it, like your American money will take you a long way out there. You can live like a king out there. But something that I learned was in some, I can't say for like all occupations out there, but there's some certain areas or jobs where they can only make up to 400, I think it's 420 pesos. Like that's the limit. So they can work 8 hours a day just to make that 420 or 400, whatever it was. It was something around that number. And if you were to convert that 420 pesos to like American dollars is only like, a couple hours here, a few hours here of work, but for them it's 8 hours. So if you were to get like just your first hour of work, if you were making at least $20, because that's pretty much the similar conversion. If you're making a $20 hour job here, your first hour is 8 hours for them, and that's how much they can only make for the day. That tripped me out, man. That tripped me out because 1 hour here is one hour worth of work here is 8 hours for them. And then, I kind of think back in the day when I used to work at retail, and I used to be like, damn, man, I couldn't wait to get off and shit, and shit like that. But it truly makes you appreciate life out there. And that's another thing too of why I saw myself kind of thinking, can I live out here? I talked to my mom about it too. I told my mom every day while I was out there, like, I was like, I love it out here. And this was my first time experiencing it as an adult. I mean, have you ever been out there when you were a kid? To comparison to 2018 when you were like, pretty much an adult already.
I think the youngest I was there, I was like in high school already, so it's not even. I wouldn't say I was a child.
Yeah. So when the last time I was there was 2021 or 22. When did COVID break out?
2020.
2020 broke out. Okay, that's when it broke out. So story time. The last time I was in the Philippines, this was my fourth time, by the way. When I was at the reunion, it was my fourth time. The last time I was there was in 2020. Back in the old company that I was working for, we had traveled to the Philippines for work. I was supposed to be out there for a month because we had a division in Manila, a group of employees that I had to train and work with for a whole month. So I got there. We got to our nice-ass hotel, checked in, and the employees out there, a lot of Filipino employees that work in the Philippines who work for a company in the States. I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but especially for like a lot of support jobs, Pinoys out there are working when you're sleeping. So when it's nighttime over here, that's when their shift starts. So they're working from their midnight to all the way to the morning. That was my shift too. Like I think it was like 10 p.m. till 7 a.m. That was my shift out there. And I did my first shift. I knocked it out, right? I taught a class of like 30 Filipinos, and then right when the class ended, my coordinator pulls myself and two other of my coworkers who came to the trip. They pulled us in, and then they were like, so we got some news back home that we have to send you guys home. And then in my head, I was like, oh fuck, did I do a horrible job teaching? Like, did they not like my style of teaching? I was like, damn it. But they were like, no, it's not that. So they just announced back home that COVID is official and that it's real, and it broke out. So we have to we have to go home, because if not, we're gonna get stuck here. In hindsight now, I wish I got stuck there. But I got to. So they sent us home like one day after I got there in the Philippines. I didn't really get to roam around, because that was my first time there as an adult. I was 22. I was 30, 34, 33 around the time, and
by yourself too, right?
And by myself.
Not with your parents or anything.
Yeah, I was by myself. I had my own room. Two other coworkers had their own room as well, and it was crazy, man. I spent more time in the air than I spent in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So obviously I had just gotten there, so my luggage and my stuff was still pretty much in my luggage. I packed it up, and they got us our ticket. And at the time, I don't know if anyone has ever experienced being at the airport during COVID. It was madness. madness, man. I've never that was probably the worst experience I've ever had at an airport, just because of how much traffic was flowing. A lot of people were going home. A lot of people were trying to book flights. In fact, there's I know quite a few stories. Maybe you know some friends as well, or a friend of a friend who got stuck. Not even just at the Philippines, but at just places around the world because of COVID. So yeah, my last time there, I was only out there for like maybe 24 hours, and this time around, I got to be there for 2.5 weeks, and yeah, the turnaround, the big U-turn from what I experienced a couple years ago to coming back, it definitely came back with vengeance, because I had a great time there, man. The food. There's a lot to eat out there. I mean, I know where we're from in this particular part of the bay. It's a very strong area with Filipinos, so there's always Filipino food everywhere. Out there, there are these little food stations on the street. They call it ihaw. So pretty much what that means is it's finger food, and that's one of like the first things that we had hit up. When you're with your parents out there. And I knew this incoming because my first time in the Philippines, I was 16. And I saw this back then, and I saw it again. It's the happiest that I've ever seen my mom, because she gets to see her cousins that she grew up with. Happiest I've ever seen her. I already knew that. My whole family was there. I got to see a side of them when they mingle with their cousins, and they're out in the streets, and they're getting fruit from the markets, and they're trying to haggle for souvenirs. That is the happiest that I've ever seen them, and that brought a joy to me, because back home, I see them happy too, but you get to see their playground. You get to see where they came from and what they were accustomed to growing up, and it's so crazy to me when like my mom would tell me that when she introduced me to all my uncles and aunties, like these are the cousins she grew up with growing up. And then it's always crazy to me, and I think a lot of Filipino Americans can relate to this. It's crazy to me that when we all, or like our families, moved here to America, it was sudden, and at that point in time, that was the last time they saw their cousins. So for a lot of my mom's cousins that she saw, this was the first time she's seen them since she was like a teenager, and she's known them since she was a toddler. So it's crazy to me. It's so emotional, and I think that's what kind of draws me too, because when they, when family from out there saw us, it looked and it felt like a single beat, didn't like a single beat of time didn't skip on them. So that's it, and I know we kind of strayed away and we talked about the trip, but all this ties into why I think I'd move there, because you got family out there. You got ties out there with people that know you, and people who are willing to take care of you out there. And I think I may have mentioned it, but it's really cheap out there. It's really cheap compared. When you come back home and you gotta pay bills again, it's like, fuck, dude. Like, I was barely spending like $5 a meal out there. It was insane. It was insane. But if you were to ever get another chance to go to the Philippines, I mean, for the first time, I would recommend, definitely going with family, especially your family that has been there before, because what they know back then, they will still know now, even if all the streets are a little different. They will still remember the routes and how to get to certain areas, to get to certain cities. That my number one recommendation to going back, and I mean, chaotic, you can attest to this as well, is if you know somebody back home, especially if it's family, like they know their way out there. They'll be ready to guide you without any hesitation out there. If you got someone to guide you, that's the first part, right?
Yeah. Somebody to guide you that's around your age too, because
yeah,
that's a big one too.
Right. I mean, and another thing too. I mean, they all speak English. They all do. I mean, it may not be it may not be perfect English, but they understand you. Another thing that was great about this trip is because when I was growing up as a kid, my mom and my grandparents, they spoke Tagalog to me, and they did it so much to the point where I understand till this day. I understand every word of it. Now speaking it, it's I like to say Taglish, so it's Tagalog and English together. So I put Tagalog words and English words. But I'm not gonna lie, when I was at the trip, there were some points of the trip where I was like, damn, I'm sounding more fluent every day. The thing is when you go out there and you know the language, I feel like when the more you're speaking it, it gets better in time. Which is another thing about the language too. So, I mean, if you don't know speak a Tagalog, it helps. It definitely helps. If you got someone that knows how to speak the language, you're definitely gonna make your way around there a lot smoother. But even if you don't, majority of the folks out there speak English, so they'll understand what you're talking about. But it's funny when I would speak to my cousins out there. I would try to speak Tagalog to them fluent, and I could tell that they would smile a lot, and they'd probably laugh a lot behind the scenes to see how much I was trying and how much I struggled. But at the same time, even if it was just Taglish, they understood what I was saying to them. So it didn't matter if I was pronouncing words wrong, or I felt like I was creating words on my own with English and Tagalog, but they understood what I was trying to say, and that was the dope part. But would I move there? I think I would, man. I honestly would. I think I've been living out here in California all my life, and I feel like I'm just so accustomed to everything here. You know what I mean? I think what hit me the most, bro, is the conversations I was having with like my friends back home. And this isn't a comparison, or this isn't like, oh, I'd rather go to the Philippines because of this, but like it was just more fresh, like, interactions back home in the Philippines, especially because I'm not from there. I don't know the places and all the sightseeings and the experiences out there, or the way they do things, but it is quite a simple life there. I remember the first night, and we do this back home too, but it's just so different, man. The first night we had got in, rolled up to one of my uncle's houses, kicked it in front of his house, which is in front of a busy street. He went to the local store, grabbed a couple cases of beer, put it in front of the table, cracked it all open, and we were just sipping on beer the whole night, just watching the night street. And not to say that we don't do that here. I mean, we do that all the time when we get together here. We get some beers and we hang out and we kick it. But I guess it's just something that you have to experience. For me, if it's the tie-in with family, and you don't mind the humidity, if you don't mind the humidity, and if you don't mind going to if you really think about it, if you live around Manila or the area that I had went to, people think that, oh, you're just gonna go to the mall every day because they're full of malls. So I can get why people might say I don't think I can live there because I can't do that every day. But I'm pretty sure there are things to do, people to see out there every day, and different activities that you can get into. Which, by the way, I'm hoping to come back sooner rather than later. I mean, it'd be dope if we ever got like a group of friends to head there. That'd be a dope experience. But yeah, I mean, my answer, if I were to move out there, I think I definitely would, just to have a different experience, and it really means a lot to see my family out there as well, like especially all the kids that I had just met for the first time. That's the main reason why I'd go back, so that way I can watch them grow. Because I do the same thing back here at home too. Like, I like to play with my young cousins out here. I'm the big kuya. I'm the big brother out here. So I like to, watch the little kids grow and such and stuff like that. But who knows? I mean, maybe the 3 Dot can someday have the opportunity to go to the Philippines, and maybe we do an episode out in the Philippines. You never know. A previous episode that you may have heard of, D-Buster 9, when we talked about our trip to New Zealand. So we've done it before. We've all done it before. By the way, chat, when D-Buster and Fresh ever come by, we will talk about our trip to Hawaii. Remember, we have these segments called the traveling episodes. There is a point in our life where 3 of us went to Hawaii. That'll be a funny episode. But I'm going to need both of those guys here for that episode. But I hope you guys enjoyed our episode on, talking about the Philippines and my experience out there. And hopefully it invites you to the idea of going there, or possibly visiting for the first time, or maybe it's your 10th time. But shout out to my family in the Philippines, especially on the Frondoso side and the Fernandez side. I want to give a shout out to y'all. This episode is for you guys. Mahal na mahal kayo lahat. I love you guys a lot. I miss you guys. And I hope to see you guys sooner than soon. So this is Bogzy, 1 out of 3 dot, with our semicolon.
What up is chaotic.
And this is the 3 Dot Podcast, where the conversation does not stop. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace.